history of the world, it's my honor to introduce to you Richard Ben-veniste.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for that introduction, Patrick Kennedy. The Bipartisan National Commission on Terrorist Acts Against the United States, better known as the 9/11 Commission, made a number of recommendations to Congress and to the President as part of our final report. Among the most significant from a security standpoint was our recommendation to maximize counterproliferation efforts targeting weapons of mass destruction, expanding the Proliferation Security Initiative, and supporting the Cooperative Threat Reduction Program. In another important recommendation, the Commission called upon America to stand up for its values aggressively and define itself in the Islamic world. Both of those recommendations are central to my remarks today. The Arab Spring movement has provided America with an opportunity to allow our values to define us in the Middle East. For too long, we have followed a simple and short-sighted goal of expediency in dealing with autocratic, repressive regimes, rather than trusting that the principles upon which our nation was founded and on which it has flourished as a beacon for all freedom-loving peoples to see, could over time replace the anti-democratic demagogues and dictators and regimes that have long ruled those countries. But let no one underestimate the long slog ahead. Despite our natural enthusiasm for those in the world who throw off the yoke of oppression, there is little reason to believe that democracy or even stability will take root, much less flourish, in the short term. This will be an exceedingly turbulent and often discouraging period, in my view, fraught with a variety of challenges to security as various factions vie for power, in countries where tyrants have ruled for decades. Armed conflict, riots, and civil unrest will be fueled by political, civil, tribal, religious, and criminal elements, while jihadists of various stripes will attempt to exploit the chaos for their own benefit. By the way, I commend to those who have not seen it the cogent testimony on this subject by Brian Jenkins of the RAND Corporation earlier this month before the House Armed Services Subcommittee on Emerging Threats and Capabilities. Al-Qaeda has quickly attempted to align itself with the new uprisings, interpreting events to suit its own narrative, as defeats of U.S.-backed tyrants like Mubarak, Gaddafi, and Ali Salah. At least they will be deprived of that argument when Bashar al-Assad falls in Syria and the mullahs are eventually turned out in Iran. Which brings us to the second topic of my remarks, the far more vexing current state of affairs that Iran's belligerent actions have brought into sharp focus. Two recent events inform my view that strong coalition action by the United States and our allies must be applied to condemn the reckless and reprehensible activities of the Iranian regime. The first, of course, is the report released on November 8, 2011 by the IAEA to its Board of Governors and to the UN Security Council, The report plainly puts the lie to the consistent denials by the regime of any interest, much less action, in developing nuclear weapons. To the contrary, the report details a well-structured and carefully organized nuclear weapons program, specifying that there are indications that Iran is preparing to produce weapons-grade fissile material at some point in the future, that Iran has the technology to prepare such fissile material to use in a weapon, that Iran also is acquiring or has already acquired the specialized detonators and technology needed for a weapon, that Iran may now be able to fully integrate those technologies into a bomb, that Iran may be conducting simultaneous simulations of key aspects of nuclear weapons development, that new data indicate that Iran is moving towards modeling weapons designs, that there now is further evidence that Iran is developing neutron initiators needed to sustain a fissile reaction and produce high yields from a fissile weapon, that Iran seems to be actively developing nuclear missile warheads, and that in a new development, the IAEA reports that Iran may be preparing for future testing. The second recent development regarding Iran, regarding and warranting reassessment of this situation, is the alleged plot to assassinate the Saudi Arabian ambassador here in the United States under circumstances that would also involve the loss of American lives. Obviously, I am not privy to classified intelligence on this subject, but it appears the plot was real, begging the question of how high up in the Iranian regime planning, support, and authority was provided. Was this, for example, a rogue operation sanctioned by a faction of the Revolutionary Guard? Or was this a plot authorized by higher-ups in the regime? Either way, a very disquieting indication of continued criminal proclivity by a would-be nuclear power. There is no disputing the regime's long history of profound disrespect for the norms of international law and human rights. Its president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, half clown, half thug, denies the Holocaust from one side of his mouth while pledging to wipe Israel off the map from the other. At the same time, Iranians, including Ahmadinejad, have engaged in apocalyptic, end-of-times rhetoric, making reference to the return of the 12th Imam and the like. What should we ask of our staunch ally, the State of Israel? For a nation founded in part on the very painful lesson learned, never again, how much forbearance can we reasonably ask as Iran moves toward the development of nuclear weapons and overtly threatens the very existence of Israel? The prospect of a nuclear bully in the Mideast willing to engage in criminal and reckless behavior, as reflected in the Saudi ambassador assassination plot, talking up an apocalyptic and perhaps suicidal end-of-times rhetoric, resets the level of bellicosity on all sides. It may well be in Ahmadinejad's short-term parochial interest to spew the kind of rhetoric for which he has become infamous. but he and those who truly make the decisions in Iran today, such as Ayatollah Khamenei, must be made to understand the danger of playing a half-court game in a full-court world. In my view, the only kind of sanctions that truly jeopardize the mullah's regime will have a chance of success in curbing Iran's nuclear weapons ambitions. No option, including a military option, should be off the table. Our allies must understand that Iran should not be allowed to delay and prevaricate until it has achieved its quest for a fissile device. While Iran does not now provide an existential threat to America, it could one day provide such to a small neighboring nation like Israel. And there is no doubt that Israel would respond to such an attack with a counter-value attack against Iran, not just against its military and nuclear facilities, but essentially destroying the country in its entirety. It is in our interest, in the interest of our planet, to avoid such a horrendous scenario by taking strong, purposeful action to curb the bellicosity and tamp down the ambitions of the Iranian regime. Sanctions and boycotts of refined gasoline sold in Europe, accounting for significant hard currency, should be employed. Surely French satellite transmissions relied upon by Iran can be denied, given President Sarkozy's view that an Iranian nuclear bomb is the single greatest threat to world security. Certainly, the covert campaign of sabotage against Iran's nuclear weapons development program, such as Stuxnet and targeted violence, can and should be ratcheted up. Finally, the Iranian banking system and Iran's ability to conduct international business can be targeted by a variety of methods at our disposal. The key in the use of harsh sanctions is to project to the Iranian people, who are certainly not our enemies, that there are clear reasons for these sanctions, reasons that are entirely the result of their leaders' threatening activities. These actions must be titrated to guard against resuscitating a failed revolution by inspiring a call to national unity. This will require skill, international cooperation, and strong determination. Failure here is not an option. The Obama administration has welcomed the IAEA findings and has declaimed the hypocrisy and outright lies of the regime's continuing denials. In my view, we must support the administration's continuing efforts to ratchet up sanctions and building consensus, while walking the difficult line created by the harsh economic circumstances that confront, and how those circumstances may be exacerbated by new sanctions. This process will require great skill and judgment. But in the end, we must not waver from using the great power that we possess to achieve the just ends we seek. Thank you very much.